Do you realize that you will be dead longer than you're alive? What will you do to have you feel the way you want to feel for the rest of your life? Winston and guests. Feeling is one thing. Fear is another. And I, from the very get-go, lived in a state of fear and anxiety. I couldn't figure out why. What was that all about? But in that whole process of discovering and opening up fear and looking to find courage, over years I realized that that was what I had done my whole life, to figure out what it was that had caused all of this fear to grab hold of my heart and close it at a very early age. Now, the core of courage is vulnerability. And everybody works with vulnerability in different ways. Whether it's emotional, or whether it's going and doing something very adventurous, or whether it's letting life pass you by. When I was 5, I took my first big step of insane courage. I grew up on a farm, and part of being on the farm was helping. So my first step of insane courage was sitting underneath a 2,000-pound cow to milk her. That was more than scary, but I got through that. When I was 11, my parents entrusted me with the farm for a weekend, and I got to milk more than one cow, while they went off to a wedding. And such was my life. I was constantly then looking for adventures, and I couldn't figure out what was driving me. I've spent most of my life in leadership. And I spent part of my life up in the Yukon. And I took a leadership course. And the first requirement was that you didn't know how to canoe. Well, if you spent any time in the Yukon and you're going to be on the rivers in the Yukon, you need to know how to canoe. But I didn't. And I went and I spent 2 solid weeks on the river. And one of the things that we did in the course was we had to do white water. We had to go through the white water. Made it through without tipping the canoe. And yet, you know, there was something that was constantly driving me, is where is my joy? And what else do I need to do to be courageous? And life just kept on and on. And then I realized I had gone full circle to pull out for me the deep, deep part of why I had all of this fear and anxiety as a child into a young woman, into an adult, even as I raised my children. In 2017, I had the wonderful opportunity to go on a Dolphin retreat in Hawaii. And I'm sure glad I was there in 2017 and not just this past weekend. I did hear one of their sirens go off, but I'm sure this weekend there was a whole lot of anxiety going on. But when I was in Hawaii, it was a tremendously spiritual experience. And I met 3 practitioners there, and I decided I was going to work with one. And the question was, Carol, what do you want to work on? And I said, what I'd really like to work on is I want to discover what that ball is that's sitting around my heart that has kept me from deep breathing my whole life. And the question was, where do you think it comes from? And I said, I don't know. And then there was another question and another question until all of a sudden I was back in time. And I was scared because I was back to being in vitro in my mother's womb at 3 months of age. And it was there at that time that I discovered and picked up that my mother didn't really want to have me. She didn't want another baby. And I picked up that fear and the anxiety. And it was interesting, when I realized that, I was able, or perhaps my body and heart were able to let go of this ball that surrounded my heart. And suddenly, I was breathing deeply, where now I can breathe deep into my stomach. I was blown away. And truly, I really felt sorry for my mother, because I then had the opportunity to look at my mother's life with this practitioner. And I also looked at my grandmother's life. And I understood the journey of where each one of them came from and where I ended up. So the part and the reason that I'm telling you this is that we never know where courage is going to come from. We never know what lies ahead of us. And I can tell you that when I discovered what I had felt all my life and what that was about, I mean, it was a huge relief. But the other part of it was, then where does that take me? Who am I? And then the biggest revelation hit. Because I had lived my life in fear of being rejected by everything and everybody. And so in a way, I have moved my life from the moment of conception through a tremendous amount of insane courage to get to the point of realizing that it's okay to feel rejection, because now I can move that forward into what will I do to feel the joy that I want to feel. And it's just a huge unloading. I mean, let me tell you a story about some of the things that I did to find my courage as I moved forward to this step. I'll give you another story of when I was in the Yukon. I love to cross-country ski. I'm from the prairies. I learned to ski on flat land. In the Yukon, you ski on hills. Out one day, I crashed into a tree. I still have the indent on my leg from the tree. But the fun part of all of that, after sitting in snow and getting hypothermic. I did that for 3 hours. When the ambulance attendant said to me, "Put your finger in this little machine here. We want to see what your heart rate says." And it flatlined. And he got white. And he said, "Do it again." So I used my other finger, and it flatlined. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm talking, but I must be dead. And yet, there was courage inside of me that said, just keep going, Carol. Just keep going. What else can you do to him? See what will happen. And he said, try it one more time. And I said, no, I'm not going to try it because I'm dead. It's flatlined twice. You're not getting my heartbeat. You put your finger in there. And then he fainted. And he was a paramedic. There was me, kind of, do I laugh or don't I? Yes, I was hypothermic. I was not in a very good place. But the point of all of this is, as we're looking for our courage, as we're looking for our joy, it's all about perspective. And courage is in each and every one of us. So I invite you to step into that. And from this moment forward, do what it takes to live the joy that you deserve.
Carol Metz-Marie, everyone. And it's because of Carol's suggestion that I'm wearing this Wonderbar jacket that I searched the world for 4 years.